All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. For those of you who are following all the sessions, and hello to anybody that's just joining us for this session on grape varieties of Friuli Venezia Giulia region, native grape varieties today, international ones coming up tomorrow. If you look to the right, you'll see a chat feature. Don't be shy, start chatting, say hello, where you're from, and of course, more importantly, if you have any questions that you'd like to put to our speakers today, which is Mr. Matteo Bellotto, wine writer, a few books, I believe, expert in Friuli Venezia Giulia, and knows all about the wines and the wine tourism in the region. So, as I say, don't be shy. Do post the questions, and I'm sure we'll be able to answer all of them. So, welcome, Matteo. Thank you for joining us. There you are. For this program, Italian Wine Week, and Friuli Venezia Giulia is particularly special because we have the International Wine Tourism Conference scheduled there for October, and as I think you said earlier, that vineyards are actually the safest places to be because it's easy to. So we don't have your sound for some reason. Just a second. So we can't hear you. Can we hear him? Can we hear Matteo? Audience? Okay. Okay. I'm going to use a panic button, and let's see if this works. Here we go. Right. Oh, Matteo, are we? Can we hear you now?
I can hear you.
Yes. There we go. Good. Perfect. We just rebooted the platform, and seems to have done the trick. So, Matteo, thank you for joining us. And as I was saying before we realized we couldn't hear you, that
can hear you.
You can hear me. Well, over to you. Can you begin the presentation? Let me.
Can hear a thing.
Let's have a look here. Okay, start the presentation. Yeah.
I can't hear.
Yeah.
All right. I hope everybody hears me. I can. Okay, so I begin the presentation. Thank you, Sue Katrina. Okay, if you hear me, I just go on just like a kind of a blind walk, and okay, so I'm going. Good. So first thing first, and welcome to Friuli Venezia Giulia. My name is Matteo Bellotto. I'm a wine writer, and I work for the consortium DOC FVG, and represent the Consorzio Colli today and Friuli Colli Orientali. First of all, I'd like to thank Promoturismo and Lara, all the girls that work into the Strada Vino e Sapori and Promoturismo to join this thing. First of all, I want you to think about what is Friuli Venezia Giulia in terms of being a kind of orchestra, right? If you have an orchestra, the first thing and the most important thing is that you have not to think about a single instrument. You have not to think about the violin or the percussions or, you know, any other kind of instrument inside, because the orchestra needs to be together in order to make the symphony heard and the symphony played. We have to think about the wines and Friuli Venezia Giulia as an orchestra. So it's going to be easier to understand why in a small region like the one we're going to see now, there are so many different kind of wine grapes, there are so many different kind of wines, and it's this huge difference into a small place like that. So first thing first, this is, you know, we're going from a map so you can understand where we are. So we are in the extreme northeast of Italy, and right now we live in the northeast, but before, when we were into the Austro-Hungarian Empire, we were the southeast part of an empire. And this thing to come from being the southeast part of an empire and becoming the northeast part of a nation just changed our minds. And you have to think about the Friuli Venezia Giulia just like a kind of nutshell that has got into the people and into the earth all the things that passed through from the Roman Empire till now. In fact, Roman Empire is very important, and we got to tell it later. So, as you can see, Friuli Venezia Giulia has got many different DOCs. It's about 10 plus the DOCG. These places and this DOC are related to different places, are related to different kind of soils that we're going to see now, and are related even to different kind of histories and related to different kind of styles of vinification. I know that could be strange to see that, you know, in a smallest place like that, just a huge mess like the one that we can see. But it's very important to remind that every small place of earth and every small parcel of these DOCs tells something about the identity that you can find tasting the wines, and you can find understanding where the wines come from. This is very important. I think viticulture and winemaking, it's not that important than geography, because geography tells us something about the wine, and wine tells us something about the earth. I used to say that we are much more, you know, sons from the earth instead of our, you know, father and mother. So this is very important, and we're going to come back in this kind of you know, map that we can see. As you can see from the map, in the northeast part there are no DOCs. Why? Because the Alps are there, mountains are there. Then we got, you know, the hillside and the seaside. The balance between mountains and to be close to the seaside are going to be very, very important for the wines and for the winemakers. And we're going to discover next. So some numbers. As I told you before, the territory of Friuli Venezia Giulia is made of 43% of mountains area, 38% is plain, and 19% is hillside. The 19% of hillside is going to be important to tell, but this is the kind of balance that we have. So the vineyard surface is about 23,000 hectares, a bit more right now, I think it's 25, with 75% of production of DOP products and 67% of white wines. we are a region known by the white wines. So this is important to remember. You can see from the number of the wineries and the surface, the average of surface, that the most number of the wineries and the winemaking here is made by small wineries and family-run, wineries. And this is very important to say because it's just like a kind of, a puzzle, and every, single piece has to come close. To make you understand how big is Friuli Venezia Giulia confronted with the rest of Italy, if we had a shell with 100 bottles, which represents the entire amount of bottles produced in Italy, Friuli Venezia Giulia is just 2 of these bottles. It's the 2% of the entire Italian production. So you can understand it's a very small place. But, in the white wines, we're very well known for the quality. And as I told you before, the climate, the soils, and the complexity that we can find in a place like Italy in general, and Friuli Venezia Giulia, of course, it's perfectly, the thing that makes us understand why this nutshell is such a big value for us. First of all, this is a very fresh and rainy place. If we think about, Italy, of the place of the sun and, and all the, stereotypes that usually people coming from abroad tells us about Italy, is nothing about what happened in Friuli Venezia Giulia. I think Friuli Venezia Giulia is the place in Europe where it rains more. This is why even working in the vineyards with this big amount of rains, it's very difficult. It's very difficult compared to other places in Italy. But this kind of climate, which is fresh, of course, it's, helped by the geography. Again, as I told you before, we got the Alps on the north that, are preventing us from the coldest winds that comes from, the northern Europe. And we got the seaside on the south that helps us with the winds to mitigate the temperatures and to make the vineyards be cleaned and be dried. So we have not the rotting problem. So you got, the big wall, the Alps on the back, and, the wind coming from the sea. This is perfect for vineyard. And then, of course, we got this is the microclimate. And then, of course, I was telling you about the earth. As you can see from the picture, this is the flesh or ponca, which is the soil that is, present into the hillside of our area. So Collio and Friuli Colli Orientali. This kind of soil is a kind of, just a kind of book of the nature. You can see these are, labels made in the millennials, just like pages where the vineyards goes through and tries to read. And what gives this earth to the wines? Well, we got the mineral part and we got, the salty part that make them, this body of the wines very important. Apart from the ponca, we even got the areas in the plainlands, just like Isonzo, Grave, and Aquileia, Annia, and the other places, which are very important because of the alluvial soils. And we got, the temperatures and, the stones that gives back the, the power of the sun to the grapes and make them, grow very healthy and very power in sugars and complex, as you can see, as you can find when you taste them. So this kind of different soils are very important to understand, because when you're going to taste a wine that comes from the Grave or comes from the Friuli Colli Orientali or Collio or even Carso, that it's a different wine from the south, you know that, that wine is carrying on a story that, it stays millennia into the earth before coming out in the glass. And this complex thing is very important. Of course, close to the complexity of the soils, we're going to see even, the vinification, which is very, very important for us. But today we're going to talk about the native grapes. When I was telling you about, the orchestra that Friuli Venezia Giulia represents, I have to tell you this. Friuli Venezia Giulia is the place in Europe with the biggest number of different grapes planted on the earth. We're talking about a number, it could be 47, more or less, but usually we are speaking about circa 20 kind of different varieties. This is the orchestra. I mean, we have not, the Chianti or the single instrument to speak about. We have to tell all the orchestra. Why? Because all the small wineries around the places that we know just to represent themselves through the wines. It's not just making a bottle. It's not just having a wine to drink, but these wines are expressing an identity. So this is very important to remember. So that's why in the white wines, we're talking about the Friulano, for example. Friulano was a wine that, we used to call them Tokai Friulano since 2007. And even before, it was a Sauvignonas, because Sauvignonas, that now we know as Friulano, comes from France in the end of 1800 with the other wines, with the Sauvignon, with the Pinot Grigio, and all the international wines that we know. Right now, that wine is just made in Friuli Venezia Giulia, and we know them about, just like it is. It's very important because Friulano is the only wine grape that you can find all around the DOCs, except from Carso, for example. And it's a great teller of the earth. It's a guy that can tell you where it comes from. Then, of course, we got Ribolla Gialla. It's a very, a kind of go-to wine in this moment. It's very important for the plainland, even if it comes from the hillside part. And it's something that goes back, in the time. The first time that we heard the word the Ribolla Gialla, it was in the end of 1200. So it's, kind of 1,000 years that we used to plant Ribolla Gialla into the Friuli Venezia Giulia. Malvasia Istriana, unbelievably beautiful wine. We got 23 different kinds of Malvasia in Italy, but Malvasia Istriana is the only one who is, is not a sweet wine, but it's actually very salty because it comes from the sea, and it's perfectly matched with, some seafood or something like that. It's beautiful, great body, semi-aromatic body, great freshness because, I was telling you before about the temperatures. It's very hot during the day and during, the moment of the harvest, and very cold during the evening. That makes, all the aromatic part of the wine grow very smoothly. And it's perfect for that kind of growth. Then we have the Vitovska, which is precise from the Carso side of the Friuli Venezia Giulia wine. And it's another very important kind of, variety. And usually in Carso, there is a great tradition of maceration of the wines. But we're going to tell about the maceration of the wines next. Then we have the Verduzzo. Verduzzo is another important wine grape, and Piccolette. These two guys are the ones who are used usually to make sweet wines, very important sweet wines. Piccolette, we have the DOCG of the Piccolette. Piccolette is the wine that, in the 1500, the Pope used to drink it, and it was very famous during the time. And even now, it's a kind of wine that is very, very important because it's sweet, but not sweet enough just to be a sweet wine. You can match it even with a lot of plates. About some percentage to make you understand how much of these wines are. Friulano, more or less, is around the 15% of the entire, production, talking about white wines. Then we have Ribolla Gialla that goes around the 10%, but a bit less because, a bit more right now because it's increase in the plantation of Ribolla Gialla. Malvasia Estiana, Vitovska, Verduzzo, and Piccolit are a real small part of this, plantation in Friuli Venezia Giulia. And these are the white wine grapes, the most important of them. We are talking about native grapes, and we're talking about, the expression of this wine. Of course, people in Friuli Venezia Giulia, the locals, love this kind of wines and used to love this kind of flavors. Friulano, for example, you can have 100 of them, and none of them is going to be the same. The particularity of Friulano are, this kind of almond taste flavor. And the aromatic part, very important. I told you, it comes from a Sauvignoness, so it's very close to Sauvignon in this kind of flavoring. Even it's more different from the Sauvignon because it's its own character. Ribolla Gialla is just like we're gonna see tomorrow, even Pinot Grigio. It's just like talking about pop music. You can go to Shakira, from Beatles to Shakira, and everything is fine if you like Shakira, and everything is fine if you like the Beatles, but it's a word in the middle. So Ribolla Gialla, you can have it a sparkling version, you can have a champenoise version, you can have just a stainless steel fresh version, and you can have a macerate version. Very important in the Oslavia part in Colli. Then we go to the red wines. Red wines are very important, and right now with the climate change, even the maturation of the red wines are changing a lot. For example, if we talk about Refosco, I wrote here Refosco del Peduncolo Rosso, that you can find. This is the picture of Refosco del Peduncolo Rosso. And Refosco, it's very important. We get many different kinds of Refosco. And there is one wine missing in this list that I just forgot to write, which is the Terrano, from the place of Carso that comes there. And Refosco, it's very important because it's one of that wines that are changing now in the time. In the past, Refosco used to be very, very, herbal and hard to drink because it was with this big tannin that comes and not easy to drink. And right now, with people that are working and waiting him to evolve a little bit, it's changing. Then we have the Schioppettino. Schioppettino, of course, is very important. And we got, a cru in Prepotto in Friuli Colli Orientale, which is very important. Schioppettino is important because of one characteristic. I got many, but because of one characteristic. It's been discovered that inside the Schioppettino there is a molecule which is called the rotundone. The rotundone, it's the one who makes you feel the flavor of pepper. In fact, it's been discovered that the flavor of this molecule that comes from pepper, it's responsible for that kind of flavor. And Schioppettino likes the cool climate and the cool places to grow up his own aromas. And it's a very beautiful wine to have in many different situations. Not that big tannin, very easy drinkable, and with this kind of pepper that you can feel when you drink it. It's fabulous. Tazzellenghe. Tazzellenghe, it comes from the Friulan language. It means when someone cuts your tongue, actually. And it's called like that because it's very hard tannin that you can feel it. And it's just 4 hectares in the entire Friuli Venezia Giulia. So it's a kind of, a very rare, very difficult to find out. And then, of course, we have the ancient king of the hill, and not just the hill, actually, because you can find it, even in the plain lands, which is the Pignolo. Pignolo, it's another wine that needs a lot of time to evolve because of this very thick tannin, but it's a beautiful red wine. Some people used to call the Pignolo the Barolo of Friuli Venezia Giulia. I don't know it, but it's really something very particular. I'm just really, okay. Then we go into the characteristics, just to go quickly. The white wines that you can find in the region, they got very different expression. I'm going to use some words that maybe sometimes are not, good to tell in the translation in English. Just like, for example, the acidity. What is the acidity that we mean? The acidity is that kind of, very beautiful characteristic that make us think about the wines in the long time lasting, because this kind of wines that we used to do in the hillside can last easily, but easily even 20 years, and you can have it to have it in this average after 3 years, but are good even when you find it fresh. So you can find the body, because of the concentration, because of the temperatures, the aromatic expression, as we said, because of the climate, and a beautiful balance. So persistent in your mouth and very elegant, and I like the perfume, and it's good because if you have a walk in this period in late May or June with all the flowering and the things that happen into the vineyard, you can relate all the scents and the taste and the air that you can feel into the vineyards, into the glass afterwards when you do your tasting. It's beautiful because that makes you feel that the people are working, respecting the nature where we are when they're in. And the red wines, of course, we are in the cool climate, so they're not that big-bodied, just like the red wines that we used to have in other parts of Italy, but they're very easy drinking, and native people from here, locals, love the red wines, because white wines were worth for the emperors and red wines were worth for the people. And right now, red wines, because of the climate change, again, are changing a lot. And the drinkability and the freshness of these wines, compared with a good tannin, are making them very good to have from before dinner and after dinner and during the dinner. So very easy to drink. Of course, we have even some blends. Again, as I told you, we are a place where we used to speak as an orchestra, and we are used to have single varieties. We're not just we're not blend guides because of the history and the Austro-Hungarian Empire just like the single varieties, and even because we are just on the northeast part of the 45th parallel. The 45th parallel is the one that passes through Bordeaux, and we used to say that on the north of the 45th parallel you have the single varieties, and on the south you got the blends. So we are much more close to the Alsace example instead of other examples. But these blends are very good. We got the Rosazza di HG, as you can see the slides. Then we have the Collio blend. Originally it was with Friulano, Malvasia and Ribolla, but right now the disciplinary makes them do with every kind of variety into the cards and the regulation. And then of course we got the red blends, the international one, just like the Bordelese ones, and with the autochthons. So you can find red wines that are made with Refosco, Schioppettino and Pignolo. So these kind of blends are very rare and very good. So as we used to say, and I want to say it today, but I'm going to tell it even tomorrow, when you first arrive as a guest, you just come back as a friend. This is a kind of motto that I like you to leave to you, to make you understand how important for us is to be, We just wanted to make you understand how much we love our region and how much we need to share our love. So this is my first presentation, and okay, I can't hear you yet. No, I can't hear you. But, you know, I think maybe you want to show the video, won't you? Okay. I don't know why, because, you know, audio was working before.
Da ragazzi ci trovavamo tutti i giorni nello stesso posto, senza il bisogno di darci appuntamento. Siamo cresciuti insieme, proteggendoci dal mondo e alimentando le nostre speranze. Riuscivamo sempre a sorridere. La vita ci ha poi divisi. Siamo andati lontano, in quel mondo col quale avevamo imparato a parlare. Abbiamo continuato a portare dentro di noi la voce gentile della nostra terra, ogni volta che ci sentivamo distanti da quelle giornate trascorse insieme. Poi alla fine siamo tornati tutti qui, nello stesso posto, senza darci appuntamento, per raccontarci le distanze e ricordarci quei giorni che ci avevano uniti nel tempo. Ci ritroviamo abbracciati a questa terra che accoglie tutti. Abbiamo imparato ad aiutarci e a non smettere di stupirci. Ora che ci penso, non abbiamo mai smesso di sorridere.
Okay. Are we hearing each other? No.
Good. I still can hear a thing, but...
Okay, well, I can... okay, so do we have any questions? Let's have a look. Any questions for Matteo on the chat? There we have one. Okay, so Matteo can't hear me, but
I can answer the question. So, well, thanks for the question. The initiative, you're asking why the initiative of some wine growers, such as, for example, Eddie Keba, to use the only 3 native varieties in Collio blend did not succeed finally, and the international varieties are allowed as well. Well, I can answer from my experience working in Collio. The goal to have the Collio blend when it first was, you know, put into, you know, the labels in, I think it was the late 90s, was made in order to have the more, you know, wineries possible that makes the blend. If they had to do just the 3 native varieties of the Collio blend, they're just going to be, you know, a few wineries in doing the Collio blend. Allowing to put all the different varieties, just make them have a lot of winemakers start in, you know, trying to express the Collio through their own sensibility. Because it's true, the Collio blend historically is made with the 3 native varieties. But there are some winemaking makers that wants to express the Collio version with the Sauvignon, for example, or the Chardonnay, or something that makes it a bit more international instead of making it so traditional. The first, need in doing the Collio blend was to make a lot of wineries to do it. And I think, and right now we can see that there are a lot of winemakers that are going in this, in this destination, exactly to do the Collio blend with the 3 native varieties. So it's just a matter of time, I think. And right now the blends are something that are, increasing their value into the wineries, and when they will be, the real income of the winemakers. So we're going to talk about the blends in a different way. Another question: Friuli produce solo grade of Blanc. Concerning black grape, how is Pinot Noir? Well, Pinot Noir, I'm going to speak tomorrow even about the Pinot Noir. Pinot Noir, it's a small quantity. I think it's a bit less than 1% of the entire red production. Just a few hectares, good quality, and you can find it in the hill parts, some very good Pinot Noir. And right now it's, it's increasing because there is a group, an association of some, wineries that are increasing in the work of the Pinot Noir. Probably we're going to see in the next year something, a bit more complex about that Pinot Noir. We cannot even compare it to the Alto Adige, but I think because of the climate that we have, the Pinot Noir is going to be a good expression for Friuli Venezia Giulia. So, another question: what do you see as the 2 or 3 most important evolution of the region today? What do you mean about evolutions? I don't know what you mean about Arti. Okay, so we have to end up.
Yes.
What's a must and a common wine grape in the region? Well, I have to say Ribolla Gialla, but it could be Pinot Grigio, and depend. It's a tough question, Andrea. It's gonna take 2 hours of answer, I think.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Stop.
Bye. See you tomorrow. Cheers. Bye bye. Thank you.
Thank you. So some bizarre reason that Matteo couldn't hear me, but I can hear him, and I think everybody can hear both of us. So watch the replay. They're going up 10-15 minutes after the sessions are delivered, and we'll see you back here in 5 minutes. We'll just put up the link to the live interviews that are coming up with 3 producers. If you click up there, right at the top, the link will take you to the next session, starting in 6 minutes' time. So thank you, Matteo, and we'll see Matteo again tomorrow for part 2 of Friuli Venezia Giulia. Hopefully we'll get the chance to talk about the wine tourism and that we were able to talk to each other. So catch you again in 5 minutes' time on the next session. Bye-bye.